Hello and thanks for joining School of the American Rifle. Today's video is an abbreviated physical / autopsy. This particular gun right here in front of us is an IWI Zion. You can see it has the School of the American Rifle logo. This was actually donated by IWI to School of the American Rifle to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and this was given away. And before we ship it, I wanted to do a quick physical / autopsy on it because it's got my logo on it. So can't have stuff out there floating around if it's wrong. I wasn't able to video me doing the work, but I did put it through the gauntlet. As you can see, all the gauges are out, and I checked everything that can be checked. And there's really only two things I can report back. And one's more of a pet peeve of mine. Everything gauged out on this. The bolt carrier did get into the yellow runs for the gas ring and the bolt support shoulder and for the bolt tail. And what that means is it leaks a little bit of gas. It doesn't mean that the gun won't run. It just means that if it has a smaller gas port as gas is introduced into the system, it might bleed too much and it might not cycle with weaker ammo. Now, the lower does have an unmarked buffer in it, and I weighed it, and it weighs 3.7 ounces, and a 3.7 ounce buffer is equivalent to an H buffer. So, gauge the gas port, and it's gauged at 0.078. This is a mid-length gas system on a 16-inch barrel, so this is gassed just about perfectly for commercial ammo. And this works out well if you have a carrier that is on the mild efficient side. So all in all, with the H buffer and the 78 gas port on a mid-length gas system, this thing is gassed just about right for commercial and hotter NATO pressure ammo. It's leaking a little bit of gas from the carrier, but that's about normal. So it's not a fail, and I always say that in my videos. These colors that I use for the bolt carrier is not a pass-fail, it's an efficiency check. Now let me show you the two things that we can debate about. The first thing is the extractor spring. Normally, if I see the O-ring with a spring and the insert, that usually tells me that the spring is really probably not up to task. So what I did is I took the O-ring and that spring out, and I put a spring coat 4-coil extractor spring in this gun. So this is not the original IWI spring and donut. I will put this in the box. And I'm not saying that IWI is wrong, but my preference is a better spring, and I believe that's less than optimal. And they did use the knurled tip screws, but maybe the tech that was putting the gun together, let me see if I can zoom in. Messing with a new camera here. See if we can get the knurled tips on this. There we go. Bring it back out. Learning the new camera. The audio is much better on this thing. But they did use the knurled screws and they were torqued properly, but there was no thread locker on the screws. So I did install new screws because you don't want to reuse those knurled tip screws once they flatten out. So 2 new screws, and put some rock set on there. Some people will use high temperature red or blue, but I don't believe that that's up to task if you push the gun hard and the barrel gets hot. So those are the things that I changed. 2 set screws and added thread locker. The set screws that were on there were good and torqued properly, just no thread locker. And I prefer a different extractor spring. Some people would prefer to step up to an H2. But the way this gun is gassed and the way that the carrier efficiency gauges out, I would say that IWI did some good homework through. So I'm not going to call this an autopsy. I'm going to call this a physical because it did pass. 2 minor things. A $5 spring and some thread locker. They did dimple the barrel. Gun gauged out as far as headspace goes. I mean, just about everything on this thing was on point. The receiver extension was straight. The carrier key to low receiver gap was very, very close, but not into the fail or dangerous range. So I'm not worried about the carrier key hitting, but if the owner wants to, they can just drop a quarter in the receiver extension / buffer tube, and they'll be good to go. But this IWI Zion did really good. Now, they did know it was going to go to me, so some people will say, well, maybe they cherry-picked it. Maybe they put all the best stuff in there. Maybe they did. But I can tell you that no other company offered a complete rifle, so got to give it to Zion for being so generous with the giveaway. They did a great job with the logo. They put a distressed Cerakote job on it. The mag well gauged out, which is normally a rare thing when somebody Cerakotes something. So overall, this gun's going to someone who I think well deserves it. And it's a great gun. This is an example of one. And as always, I hope you found this video educational. Thanks for watching.